but good things.
Yeah. Yes. So this is
And
this
this is
is
the Star Trek that people said was actually kind of okay.
yeah. Yeah. So I had the quote unquote brilliant idea for us to watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but specifically the musical themed episode, which was titled Subspace Rhapsody. And I can hear Freddie Mercury spinning in his grave. Uh, so, so full disclosure, yeah, I know.
Now, that wasn't for you. That was for everybody involved in the making of this abortion.
Oh yeah, yes. um, so full disclosure, neither one of us have watched this show previously. I knew a little bit about it, but not not enough to care about it, not to watch it. I'm not. I'm not a big fan of New Trek. Um, I watched Discovery, or at least the first. Believe it or not, I watched 3 seasons of that show, and it was
Wow, that you talk about the agony booth.
oh yeah, it was awful. And I watched the first season of Picard. I hated it. Didn't watch the second season. Third season is the only standout. Um, and of course, I haven't watched. Like I said, hadn't watched this show, hadn't watched Lower Decks or the other animated show that got yeeted off of the platform. But anyway,
Prodigy.
Prodigy. Thank you. Yeah.
Now Daniel's the big Star Trek fan. I think I watched like 10 minutes of Discovery once just on a whim because it was available somewhere, and I just did not enjoy it at all.
Yeah. And it just said, please tell me it was research for a future project. I wish I could tell you that.
Yeah. Now,
I'd like to tell you that.
thankfully, the actual plot of the episode is extremely easy to describe because it's okay. So this is the adventures of the Enterprise before Kirk became captain. So it's Captain Pike with Spock as his first mate.
Yeah, Spock was his science officer.
Science officer. That's right.
And and then Rebecca Romaine there, she's playing number one, and she's the first officer.
Okay.
And they were in the original pilot for Star Trek called The Cage.
Mm-hmm.
And so they basically, and then they showed up in season 2 Discovery. Pike was the captain of Discovery in season 2. But then they spun off with this show. So, but yeah, I guess getting into the plot of the episode, they encounter a subspace anomaly where Spock and Uhura are doing some sort of communications experiment.
They find this like subspace rift where it's like, oh, if we can figure out how to beam things through the subspace rift, we can we can do live communication between the 2 points there, which will greatly increase communication speeds.
Right. And
that's a Star Trek-ish thing to do.
Yeah, that's a start. Yes, it is. But then they decide, as part of the experiment, to pump music into it. And this is where the whole episode goes completely off the rails. Because, they open up I guess a door or a rift into another reality where everybody breaks out in spontaneous song.
Oh, is that what it was? I kind of glazed over, and I thought there's like something quantum, something quantum, something possibilities, something.
Yeah, it was all of that mixed in with, well, it's another reality where this happens. At least that's what I remember. It's kind of hard to but anyway, so then that's where the musical aspect of it comes from, where they all just start spontaneously bursting out into song, and the chief of security. Well, okay, so most of the episode revolves around like not Star Trek stuff, not like Star Trek like galaxy. There's a little bit of the the galaxy is going to blow up kind of thing that does
Hmm.
come in there, but it's very minor.
Yeah, because basically, if okay, so they beam this in, and the reason that the music is a problem, because otherwise it would just be like an annoyance rather than an actual uh, an actual threat, is
Yeah,
that the music is kind of overriding. It's basically forcing people to sing their feelings that they've been hiding out loud.
right. Yeah,
Um, and and they open a communication beam to. Apparently, Captain Pike must have a girlfriend who's a captain of another ship.
yeah. Apparently, yeah.
Is
I
all I
mean,
could figure because they did
yeah,
because like they had it previously on, but I wasn't quite sure what was going on there. And she
yeah,
starts saying, "It's like, oh, yeah, this beam could go through the entire communication network and spread this problem to the whole galaxy."
yeah, yeah. And then it spreads to the Klingons, and that's where the real problem kind of comes in. Because the
Yeah,
Klingons want to go in and blow up the rift, but the problem is that they blow up the rift, the whole galaxy, or not the whole galaxy, but most of the galaxy is going to blow up.
yeah. Um, and so there's like the Star Trek plot, and well, I'll call it the Star Trek plot, and
Yeah,
then there's the relationship drama plot,
yeah, yeah. Jeez.
which I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that Star Trek was a soap opera.
It's not. It's Star Trek. No, Star Trek is not okay. So from what I've heard, the writers they gained the inspiration for the show was from the new Battlestar Galactica, the most recent version of Battlestar Galactica, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Battlestar Galactica, I can kind of understand, even though the tone of that show and the stuff that happens in that show is completely different from what happens in Star Trek.
Right.
Uh, um, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that's where you get the soap opera BS, and it's not Star Trek. It's not Star Trek. Like it's yes, there were interpersonal dynamics amongst the crew, but they weren't front and center of the freaking show.
Right. And quite frankly, now of course, I haven't been watching the show for 2 seasons, so I have no relationship to any of these characters. But the guy they have playing a young James T. Kirk, he actually isn't completely inappropriate for the role, in my opinion.
He's okay. He's more subdued than Chris Pine, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, he's no Chris Pine, but who is?
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so that was one of the okay. That's the thing that ticks me off. Um, uh, Ninja Ask isn't Star Trek a space opera? Um,
That's more Star Wars' thing.
yeah,
The nature of Star Trek is it's basically you have whatever your core crew is for whatever show you're doing. It's it's like a problem solving show more than anything else.
yeah, yeah. It's more geared towards it's science fiction, whereas like Star Wars is more like space fantasy.
Right.
Um,
And I
yeah,
suppose actually this kind of reminds me of Voyager. This the dynamics in this episode because they Voyager was more interested in the romance.
yeah, yeah, and I think that a lot of that I think was because of that they were stranded on the other side of the galaxy. Um, and of course the fact that they had Jerry Ryan on the show. I mean,
Hey, D Rhino.
hey, D Rhino.
I mean,
Um,
I'm going to be honest. If 7 of 9 was on my crew, I'd be thinking about romance more often too.
yeah. uh, but yeah, so yeah, like most of the characters, like I mean, like Kirk was okay, but I don't like Spock. Spock is not Spock.
No. Okay.
Um,
Daniel, you threatened a an unhinged rant earlier. Do you want to deploy it now?
sure. Okay, so Spock, and most of you, if you watch Star Trek, Spock he's half Vulcan, half human. But early in his life, he decided that he was going to follow the Vulcan way over the human way, and so when you watch the TV show, he's very doesn't he might occasionally display a little emotion, but not like over the top. Nothing nothing just like I mean but he was always very stoic. He was always very logical and you know
The guy died of radiation poisoning, and he kept it mostly together.
yes, yeah. And so one of the interpersonal dynamics on this show is between Spock and Nurse Chapel. And if you watch the original series, Nurse Chapel was a character on that show. What's funny is you've got number one, who was played by Rebecca Main on this show, and then Nurse Chapel. In the original TV show, both of those characters were played by the same actress, Majel Barrett, who was married to Gene Roddenberry. But that's neither here nor there. So it's hinted at in the episode, and they mentioned it in the recap that Spock and Nurse Chapel are like have a thing, and Chapel is going. She's going away to do some study fellowship thing, and Spock is really upset about it. Okay, no,
No.
no, that is not that. Spock would number one. Spock probably would not like. Okay, it was kind of hinted at in the original series that like Nurse Chapel had a thing for Spock, but Spock did not reciprocate.
That was the whole drama of the character of Nurse Chapel.
Yes, uh, this completely undoes that drama. Undoes that drama, and it completely changes Spock in every way because Spock's like, oh, I'm very upset about this, and like, no, he would not be upset about it. He wouldn't. Number one, he wouldn't be in a relationship with her, and number two, like her leaving, he would say, well,
It, it's been a pleasure working with you.
yes, yeah, exactly. It wouldn't affect him in any way whatsoever. But this show just says nope. Going to completely throw that out the window.
Also, I have to question, why would a nurse be applying for that kind of science grant?
I don't know. Yeah, doesn't make any sense at
Yeah.
all. And
From what I gathered of the songs, which we'll get into the songs in a minute,
yeah,
it's more like Spock was going, "Oh no!" I think it's not so much that oh we have a thing going. It's more like we could have had a thing going, and I didn't realize what I had until it's gone. And oh no,
yeah, yeah. It's just. And then, of course, then the other dynamic was between the aforementioned. He's a lieutenant, Lieutenant James T. Kirk, and the chief of security. And I looked her up. Looked up her name. Her name is Laan Singh. She is a descendant of Khan Noonien Singh. Why? It just it doesn't make sense. It's not necessary. And you got this. They had this whole thing where she's like madly in love with Kirk. And it's no. Her ancestor is Kirk's greatest foe.
although Kurt, he wouldn't know that yet.
Right, but still, at the same time, it's like it's just so ridiculous.
Now, let me give you a bit of irony when you think about it. Uh, Christina Chong, which means that she is Chinese, which means that it continues the proud tradition of not actually casting Indian people to play Khan, considering he's supposed to be from northern India.
Yeah, yeah, and he's played by Ricardo Montalban and then Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah. It's just yeah. And then of course then the third one was Pike and his girlfriend, which I don't care about
Yeah,
that. I can't be bothered to care about that.
right. So it's basically just a soap opera. Oh,
Mhm.
with this song thing being used to force people to confront secrets that they've been hiding.
Right. Yeah. And make Asians evil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was a protagonist, so it's not like she's actually evil. It's just like a very fan fictiony idea.
Mhm.
Actually, that is literally a fan fictiony idea
Yeah.
because she's the descendant of Khan, and she has an unrequited love, or she has a actually no, she has a requited love and relationship with Captain Kirk or Lieutenant Kirk, because I believe that they had slept together in the past. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's yeah.
figure out a way to make her half Vulcan, and she's the original Mary Sue.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 This whole thing just reads of really bad Tumblr fan fiction.
Yeah.
But
But
now
DB might say,
yeah.
how about the music?
Yes.
Daniel, are you a big Broadway musical guy?
I am not. No, and that's it's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this episode is because I'm a Star Trek guy. You're a musical guy, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, neither of us were satisfied because as musicals go, man, this is like the most generic Broadway musical, like pop modern Broadway musical stuff. The songs went all way too long,
Hmm.
and like you might say, oh, it's on purpose because it's not like if Broadway musicals are spontaneously happening, they'd be good Broadway musicals. Like, shut up. These songs were long. You got the point of the song in seconds, and they weren't even catchy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: this is of course them ripping off Buffy the Vampire Slayers and Once More with Feeling, the musical episode.
Hmm.
You talked earlier about them being inspired by Buffy. Hey, you know what the difference is between Star Trek and Buffy? Magic.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about it afterwards, after we watched it, and I was pointing out you actually could have done this in the Next Generation because, first off, you have some people who are pretty good singers, but also because you have Q. Q could have made that happen. That would have been that would have been an awesome Q subplot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and if the whole thing is like singing out the secrets in your heart, like it could be that Q decided to a make like a peace conference or a negotiation with the Romulans more interesting by making everybody start spilling state secrets through song,
Yeah.
and they have to figure out a way to counter the quantum whatever.
Oh yeah. Ninja says and one was made by an overrated creep. Yeah.
Yeah, Joss is yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
just yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but in this case, it's like they tried to justify it with like, and also hearing them talk about it. Next generation, you got into this bad techno babble habit, but this is going the opposite way, where it's too dumbed down. Like they talk about zippers and in space
Yeah.
time uh, and like
Yeah.
what is like somebody asks you, why don't we turn into, or could we turn into bunnies? Like, no, I don't think we're going to. If this can happen, or what, are we going to turn into bunnies or something? Like, no, I don't think we're going to turn into bunnies.
Yeah.
Was the exact response from, I believe, Spock
Yeah, I think yeah, well, yeah.
or from somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually one of the big criticisms about New Trek is they treat the science like magic, and it's and like you said, it just dumbs everything down.
Yeah, so
Of
it
course,
just
yeah,
wasn't good.
no, it wasn't. And then of course the coup de grace was at the end of the episode with the big finale, and you got the Klingons singing a like a K-pop esque song
With a rap break.
with a rap break. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like it's easy to, like, here's the thing. Okay, so you build up a character and you build up an expectation.
Mm.
Like I'll take Mr. Spock for just for an example. built Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock is logical, emotionless, stoic. Even if he has feelings, he has them under such tight control that you would never know it.
Yeah.
Which then makes it tempting for a writer to go, but what if Spock lost control and was emotional? See the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films where he was. And the thing is, like, what it's interesting exactly once, but once you do that, and if it starts becoming a regular thing, then you've lost the essence of the character and the edifice,
Yeah.
the edifice that you've built up of the character. So conversely, if you're trying to make the Klingons out to be the big, a big threat to the Federation, like all the human songs were kind of bland and generic Broadway, but they weren't bad, and they weren't like ridiculous.
Yeah.
You give the Klingons a rap break because that's what I heard somebody at work talking about that when this show came out. Like he said, yeah, episode wasn't too great, but the bit with the Klingons was funny. It's like no, no, that undermines the Klingons as a threat going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't take them seriously as a potential enemy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like mind you, they've been undermining the Klingons since Next
Next
Generation,
generation.
honestly, but
Yeah.
still, it's just not. It's not a great. It's not great.
No. No. And and it doesn't make me want to watch the rest of this show.
No, it absolutely failed that test.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least I'm currently on a free period with Paramount Plus because I was like, I'm going to cancel my account. Like, no, please, we'll give you 2 months for free. Please just please find something you enjoy watching, and we'll show you some ads in the meantime.
Yeah.
Please, we beg you. We need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when a streaming service starts to do that, yeah, you know they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
any
I
more
think
any more thoughts to add to this one?
New Trek sucks.
That's the conclusion I'm reaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Here's my requisite pause to make it easy for Daniel to make the clips for the week.